The movie begins with Sarah and her husband, Ted. Ted has just been released from prison after serving a 5-year sentence. 5 years ago, Ted caused an accident while driving under the influence, an accident that wiped out an entire family. The shock and guilt of that incident were so heavy that he's still been seeing a therapist just to cope with it. But today, he's finally a little happy. On the way home, Sarah stops the car in front of a restaurant so Ted can eat something good. She tells him to wait in the car while she goes inside to get food for him. While she's gone, Ted gets a call from his therapist's assistant. She tells him the doctor has been missing for 2 days and no one knows where he is. Hearing that, Ted becomes restless because that doctor was the only person he trusted. Suddenly, he remembers something. In prison, another inmate had once told him, "Because of you, I lost my family. So whoever you get close to, I will take them away from you forever." Panicked, Ted disappears. When Sarah returns, all she finds in the car is Ted's phone. Terrified, she runs around calling his name. But Ted, hiding nearby, filled with fear and guilt, ignores her calls and quietly walks deeper into the forest, crying. Slowly, 1 year passes. Now Ted lives completely alone, far from everyone, in a small cottage deep in the woods. Every day, he looks at photos of his wife and children, remembering the happy life he once had. But because of the inmate's threat, he can't bring himself to go near his family again, no matter how badly he wants to. He also has a dog there, and he feeds him regularly. One day, while looking out the window, Ted feels like someone is watching him. But now he notices that his dog's food has completely run out. So he ties the dog there and goes out to buy more food, eventually reaching a supermarket. At the counter, the cashier girl recognizes Ted and starts talking to him. She even asks if he would like to spend some time with her. But Ted panics, gets scared, and suddenly snaps at her, yelling without warning. He grabs the dog food and quickly leaves the store. On the way back, a police officer stops his car. The cashier had reported that Ted tried to scare her. Ted tells the officer, "I didn't do anything," but the officer still takes him to the station for questioning. There, the police chief looks into Ted's old records and discovers he had been imprisoned for drunk driving. He also learns that Sarah had filed a missing person report for Ted a year ago. The chief tells Ted to call Sarah, but Ted refuses. So the police call her themselves. After hearing her husband is alive, Sarah leaves her children with her mother and travels all the way to that distant station. But the moment Ted sees her, he screams like a madman, "Get out of here!" Sarah tries to calm him, saying, "I came here for you." But Ted refuses to listen. Crying, Sarah leaves. The police chief is confused too. Sarah explains to him that ever since the accident, Ted has been terrified. He could have been released after 2 years, but out of guilt, he refused and stayed longer. Before leaving, Sarah hands the chief an envelope and asks him to give it to Ted with his belongings. A little while later, the chief goes to Ted and says, "You're free to go," then leaves to get his things. During that moment, Ted notices the missing persons board. He picks up a photo from it, collects his belongings, and rushes out of the station. He reaches his cottage as fast as he can and shouts loudly, "Look, I listened to you. I didn't talk to her." He shouts, "Are you happy now?" But when he goes inside, he doesn't find his dog. The dog's rope is broken too. While taking out the dog food, he also finds the envelope the police chief had placed in his bag. Ted is shocked when he opens it. Inside are letters from his children. Seeing them, Ted becomes emotional and remembers every moment he spent with them. Then the inmate's words return to his mind. "Your wife and kids will stay alive only as long as you stay away from them. You'll stay alive too, but like me, you'll spend your whole life craving to touch your family." That thought still shakes Ted to his core. That same night, someone suddenly breaks into the cottage and gives Ted an electric shock, knocking him unconscious. When he wakes up, Ted finds himself tied to the bed, Sarah standing right in front of him. Ted starts shouting again, "Sarah, you shouldn't have come here. He's watching us." Sarah tells him there's no one here and says she will stay with him for a few days so he can see this is all just fear in his head. Ted pleads, "Your life is in danger. Please go." But Sarah refuses and steps outside to get her things. Ted begs her not to go out, but to calm him down, she gives him a pill and says, "If you take this, I won't go." Ted listens to her, takes the pill, and falls asleep. In the morning when he wakes up, Sarah is still there. She wants to go outside to get her luggage from the car. Ted tells her to take the gun from the drawer, but Sarah says she doesn't need it and steps out without the gun. She also notices the boat on the lake, the same boat someone had been standing on, watching them. Walking a little into the woods, she finds empty alcohol bottles. She begins to believe Ted really is mentally unstable. Meanwhile, Ted struggles to free himself, but Sarah returns with her bags. Ted tries to explain that he had a dog, and the dog has disappeared too. Sarah tells him dogs often run away. He must be nearby. Ted angrily says, "Do you think I'm crazy? I love you. I worry about you." Sarah explains that she and even the police couldn't find him for a whole year. So why would he think someone else could find him in this lonely place and keep watch on him? She then goes out to search for Ted's dog. But Ted accuses her. "You and your friend betrayed me." Sarah says, "I'm not going anywhere, no matter what you say." Ted replies, "Go back to your friend. I'll stay here. I'm fine." Sarah breaks down crying and admits it was just a mistake. Even then, Ted doesn't calm down. So Sarah injects him to make him unconscious and heads out to search for the dog. This time, the boat in the lake is gone. But on a nearby tree, she sees a camera pointed toward the cottage. She starts suspecting that maybe someone really has been watching Ted. She returns and hides a GPS tracker inside Ted's shoe. Meanwhile, the police chief is rereading Ted's file and begins to suspect something else is going on. That night, Sarah goes out again to look for Ted's dog. She suddenly freezes. It's a wolf, eating the dog's dead body. She shoos the wolf away and brings back the dog's rope. The next morning, she tells Ted, "Your dog wasn't killed by a person. A wolf killed him." She asks Ted, "Did you ever see this man in prison?" Ted says, "He spoke to me through another inmate." Sarah shows him the suicide note of the man whose family died because of Ted. She explains, "He sent this to you 6 months ago just to break you mentally. He died after that, but the police never found his body." So Ted becomes suspicious that the man is still alive. Ted tells Sarah, "He put cameras outside to watch me." And then he says, "If you want, you can bring that camera inside so we can find out what really happened to my dog." Sarah goes outside and starts removing the camera. But the camera slips from her hand, falls, and breaks. At that very moment, Sarah's phone receives a GPS alert. She realizes Ted has run away. She immediately follows the tracker and catches up to him, trying to convince him to come back to the cottage. But Ted says, "I don't want you to die because of me," and points the gun at himself. However, Sarah had already removed the bullets, so he survives. She shocks him again, knocking him unconscious, drags him back to the cottage, and ties him up once more. Meanwhile, the police chief reviews CCTV footage showing Ted staring intensely at the missing girl's poster. This leads them to start looking for that girl. Sarah now asks Ted, "Are you drinking again?" Ted says no, but Sarah doesn't believe him. She steps outside and calls her mother, crying, "Mom, Ted is very sick. I don't think I can help him." Her mother tells her, "Maybe you should come back home for the kids." Sarah returns to Ted and says, "You don't want to accept the truth. I have to go now." But Ted repeats, "I love you, Sarah." She starts crying and says, "Maybe you're right. Maybe that man is still alive. But no one is watching us. You're just trapped in your own guilt." Angry and emotional, she walks outside. As night falls, Ted keeps calling her, "Sarah, come inside. It's cold." Sarah, sitting alone by the bonfire, says, "I'm right here," and eventually falls asleep there. Meanwhile, the police chief continues searching for the missing girl. He reaches a shady place where girls are seen coming and going. One of them tells him Ted had been with the missing girl a few weeks ago. She had disappeared for a few days after that, but eventually returned. Someone there gives the chief her address. The next morning, Sarah wakes up and realizes no one has shown up. She goes inside to shower. Ted watches her and remembers their happier days. Sarah tells him to freshen up too and later steps outside to fix the broken camera. When she checks the video, she discovers something shocking. The camera was installed by Ted himself. She becomes furious and yells at him, You don't even remember that you put this camera here. Ted tries to explain, living here alone without you all hasn't been easy either. I'm not crazy, Sarah. I don't understand what's happening. Sarah calms him down, spends time with him, and tries to bring him back to normal. Meanwhile, the police chief finds the missing girl, Nicole. Nicole explains that Ted had offered her money to stay with him for a week. But because of his strange behavior, she stayed only 4 days and ran away. Nothing happened between them, but she remembers how disturbed Ted was. When the chief learns from Sarah's mother that Sarah is with Ted, he panics and tries calling her to warn her that she might be in danger. But Sarah's phone is off. Back at the cottage, Ted has finally become somewhat stable. Sarah tells him she's going to the car to get the extra battery so she can call her mother. Ted says he'll go instead. But as soon as he sits in the car, memories of the old accident start haunting him again. He snaps back to awareness with a terrifying thought that the man is going to kill Sarah. Panicking, Ted runs back toward the cottage to save her. Meanwhile, Sarah discovers a hidden basement door under the cottage floor. When she climbs down, she finds a girl's belongings in a cage-like structure. Sarah panics, thinking Ted has been doing something terrible. She runs upstairs in fear and grabs the gun. Right then, Ted also returns and accidentally falls straight into the basement. Sarah, terrified, shouts, "I don't want to know anything about you anymore. I just want to go home." Ted tells her, "I brought a girl here. I used to go out with her so that man would see us together. I built this basement to hide her when he came to kill her, and then I planned to kill him myself. I did all of this for us, Sarah, so I could kill that man and come back to you." He cries and says, "I've seen that man outside. Before he kills you too, please go. Run." He hands her the car keys. Scared and confused, Sarah believes him and runs away. She gets into the car, but just then, following the police chief's orders, a police officer arrives. He asks Sarah to help them find Ted and warns her that Ted is mentally unstable and could be dangerous to anyone. But Sarah assures him, Ted is not a danger to anyone except himself. He just wants to be alone. The officer believes her and leaves. Sarah remains in the car, crying. She can't bring herself to leave Ted alone. She goes back toward him until she hears movement in the woods. Panicked, she fires her gun, but it's only a wolf. She reaches Ted and lies to him. "You were right. That man really existed, and he attacked me." She brings Ted outside and takes him to the lake. She convinces him, "I shot him right here. He fell into the water and died." Ted finally believes her. After years, he returns home with Sarah to their children. Life slowly becomes normal and happy again. But one day, Sarah looks toward the ocean in front of their house and sees the same man from the boat standing there again. Terrified, she stares at him, and with that final suspense, the movie ends.